All I can say is that I'm in a moment of really not being attached to outcomes and having to release control over the way things unfold in life. And I think that's a big part of this spiritual work, is finding a way to connect with that greater energy and know that something greater is at hand right now, and it's about to come through. I can't wait to see what it is. All right. Surrender. Okay, so today's talk is I am. Two of the most powerful words, for what you put after them shape your reality. It is written in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. The I am is the metaphysical name of the spiritual self, as distinguished from the human self. One is governed by spirit, the other by personal will. I am is eternal, without beginning or ending, the true spiritual person whom God made in his image and likeness. And so if we think about the fact that the I am is the word for God within us, it's how we decree that which is the power, or it's how we decree that which is limited or fearful. And so we have a choice within the I am. The I am has within it a tool that's so applicable in every aspect of our life for greater healing, greater wealth, greater love, greater understanding, greater flexibility, greater kindness. You fill in the blanks in whatever area you'd like to decree your I am. I was going to be showing you a clip. This feels like I walk. I can't stand still. I don't stand at a podium ever. Okay, so the video that I was going to show was from a documentary on Mr. Rogers. And I don't know how many people saw that documentary. Okay, yeah. So I'm sure if you watched it, it was probably one of the most powerful documentaries you've ever watched. I know that Mike and I kept not watching it because we're thinking, I'm sure it's cute and everything and spiritual and stuff, but it was like, when we want to watch something, we want to watch like a real movie or whatever, but we finally had a night we had nothing to watch, and we ended up watching it, and in the end, we just sat there for like 20 minutes just crying. We just didn't have words to speak to what was touched, what was broken open within our own hearts from this documentary. And my daughter came upstairs, my 11-year-old daughter, and she said, "What's wrong, you guys? What's wrong?" I mean, Mike never cries, so us just sitting there in sheets of tears worried her. And so I've been thinking about what was it about this documentary that's so powerful. And I was going to show you a clip where it was in the era where black people weren't allowed to swim with white people, and there was news that was being tracked of white owners of pools throwing like chemicals on their bodies when they'd be swimming with white people. And it was just a time of segregation and separation. And he went to his program, Mr. Rogers, for his next program. Then he does this little fun thing with a little baby pool, and he's like washing his feet in the baby pool, and this black officer, everybody knows the black officer on that TV show, he asks him to come and put his feet in the water with him and explains how we all should be able to cool off, and he shows the world and children how important it is to stop seeing people as separate and to teach a message of oneness. And they go on to, this is feedbacking on here, I think. They go on to interviewing that black officer of working with Mr. Rogers for 20 years. And he says, not only was I a black man playing an officer, which was a very scary thing because I didn't like officers at the time. It was a very, not a positive area in my life, but I was also playing an officer, and I was a gay man and working full-time on his show. And Mr. Rogers, if you don't know it, is actually an ordained Christian minister. But nobody knew it from that child's show, from that children's show. He decided to make his life an outpicturing of what the real, true Christ message is underneath the message. And it wasn't important to use the word God. It wasn't important to use the word spirit or source. It was all about seeing somebody and loving somebody and recognizing within themselves the beauty, regardless of their sexual orientation, their color, their story, their background, that we're all divinely connected and that we are all one. And he was teaching that at the entry level, at children's levels. And these little kids, if you see the lines that would wait to actually see him live, he was magic. He was an angel to children, and he was on PBS, and you really should watch the documentary. It really will transform your heart. And I wanted to start that way, but I guess I got the point out to lead into an experience I had last week. Is there a way we can try to get the hum off of this thing? Oh wait, I just turned my head mic up. Did that work? Okay, who does astrology? Is something in retrograde right now, or what? Is there something for Libras that they're supposed to learn something right now? Let's just start unplugging stuff. Okay, so last week we tried something new, and we decided to have a booth at the Boulder Creek Festival, which we haven't done for about 10 years, because about 10 years ago, I remember being there day and night, and we had no volunteers, and nobody helped us, and we decided that wasn't going to be something I'd do again. This time, it was incredible, and we had a plethora of volunteers show up. We had such a good time wearing our Unity t-shirts and sharing the message of unity to the greater Boulder community, and it was really quite the love-in. But when I first got there, the day before, so it was a Saturday. Usually I don't work on Saturdays and afternoons on Sundays. It was a very long weekend last weekend. But Friday I had a memorial, and I had a very busy day the day before. So I kind of went in a little bit tired, and I was there. My secretary wasn't there. It was just me organizing all the volunteers, how they were going to pass everything out, what they were going to answer for people's questions and things of this nature. And before I get everybody set up, I get this gentleman that walks up to me. And he says to me, and he's a big guy, he goes, "So you don't believe you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior to go to heaven?" And I was like, well, no, actually. We believe in developing the Christ consciousness within ourselves that accesses to all energy, which is whatever you want to call it, source, God, spirit, you name it. And so you don't feel like Jesus was the special Son of God separate from you. And I said, well, no, we believe that Jesus is the ideal of what we all are capable of. And we live in a meditative process, and we live in consciousness, and we heighten our vibrations through everything we can, from being in nature to observing animals to observing cosmic ethereal realms, from dream interpretation to, and he's like, I mean, he's just, you know. So he gives me 3 different quotes from the Bible he wants me to answer. In John 14:6, he says, doesn't it say Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me"? And I said, okay, so that, I just answered that question. So it comes through the Christ spirit that's within us. So when we heighten that Christ energy, which is us, we are a part of him. He's a part of us. We don't look at the history of the Bible and have to live way back then and try to figure out how to make it applicable into our lives, because it just doesn't really work as well. When we read about what Jesus teaches, and the thing is we only really study what Jesus said, what he said we were capable of doing. His work is what unity is about. When they go to the Old Testament, things like that, so we really don't. We can go there, we can interpret it metaphysically, but in the end, we want to find where all the religions agree with each other. We don't want to make Jesus the only separate, special Son of God. There's Buddha, there's Krishna, there's so many leaders, and you know what? There's you, and there's me. So he says, what about this? In John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. In the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, it interprets the Son of God as this: Son of God, by voluntarily casting off the limitations that man identifies as, may come into realization of its own universality as the only begotten of God. So we find Jesus referring to himself as both the Son of God and the Son of Man. By voluntarily casting off the limitation that man identifies with. This is so important because this limitation is the man. This is the physical. This is the part that's just the physical. We don't have the third eye. We don't have the chakras open. We don't have that direct connection with something greater. We are all the sons of God. We are the daughters of God. We are made in the image and likeness of God. So there is no limitation to the expression of what we can and will be in this world. It's just a matter of what are we decreeing into this world. I am. Start saying some of the I ams, and I only want to hear the positive ones. I am. Yes. I am. Worthy. I am. Truthful. Love. Open. Proven. For some, one of the greatest things they could say is, I am healed. I am whole. I am happy. I am perfect. I am here to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me directs me. So if that's the case, then we have to take the time to open up to the I am a conduit of God's love. I am a conduit of the expression of this greater something. I am open and receptive for downloads from something greater to know how to heal my marriage. I am so fully alive that I don't have an ache in my body anymore. I am happy. So this man goes on and says, so you don't believe that people sin? And you don't believe that they have to repent? And what do you think about salvation? And what are you going to do? And this guy was just like, and I wasn't really prepared. I really wasn't meditated up because I was rushing down there. And eventually I felt very attacked by his energy. And I mean, I literally felt like I was standing like this with this guy. And at one point I just took a deep breath and I looked at him and I said, I don't think that you're very curious about what unity is. I think that it's more important for you to be right now than to actually be open to what unity is and how Christianity works with unity. Well, I wasn't meaning to be threatening. I mean, I didn't mean to be that way. And it's like, well, your tone and at the speed of your throwing these Bible quotes at me, and it was like, you know. So eventually, when I got done with that conversation, I took my badge of minister off, I can tell you that, and I laughed for a minute. I was like, woo, that was fun. Let's keep going to the Boulder Creek Festival. Toss it. They weren't doing it to the other volunteers. Oh, Lord, be with it, I tell you. And I got a perspective of him. I was thinking about him and the way he approached it. And at first I was kind of ticked, and I felt like kind of attacked, and I didn't really feel prepared. He didn't say who he was or where he was from and what the approach was from. And but then I started to get this real sense of emptiness in my heart. I felt how fearful he was. I felt the guilt and the shame that led him to want to attack me. That this book of work that he has to do to get into heaven someday, to find his salvation, to know that Bible and know every single quote from front to back and back to front so that you can go door to door and sell this thing, and you got to save God, And yet what you're missing is that you're hurting God because all these people are God. And then the next morning, I had a thought about him, and it actually cracked me up. I thought, he must be so pissed that we get to just be free and happy. I was like, it wasn't like a sarcastic giggle. The giggle was like, we don't have to go through all this rigmarole. Like, we don't actually have to get God's favor. We get to be our full, expressed, gorgeous selves. And that is God's favor, because that's how we show up for this light in this world and for this planet. And, at one point he asked me, he said, how can you say that this is the only way, that this is the truth, this is the only path? I said, I never said that. You just said that, but I have a feeling you think your path is the only path. I said, actually, Unity believes that all paths that lead to God are good. Unity believes that God comes in many, many different names and practices, and we're not here to differentiate which one is right or wrong. We're here to completely be in an all-inclusive energy, that what is filling your heart with this greater potential, this greater opportunity, this greater love is meant for you. And I'm not here to convince you of my way. But let my light so shine that people start to ask me, why are you so happy? Why are you so free to be who you are? Why are you so proud of yourself? I'm going to share a quote from a book called Marrow by Elizabeth Lesser, and I know the guys out there that recommended the book to me. Are you out there? Where are you? Oh, there you are. I want to thank you, by the way. I didn't put it down it was the most amazing book. So here we go. You know how, guys, I always refer to the book Broken Open by Elizabeth Lesser? Most amazing book. But this book is just an extension of amazingness. This lady can write, and it's ridiculous. This is what she says. There's an enormous vault of wisdom to draw from. The study and the healing of one's motivations and desires and behaviors dates back to the ancient philosophers, the Taoists in China and the yogis in India, the Egyptians and the Persians and the Greeks, and to prehistory. To the indigenous cultures whose shamans and witches were the world's first therapists, in all these settings, east and west, north and south, sacred and secular, ancient and current, the best of the philosophers and doctors and shrinks have always been what shamanic cultures call wounded healers. Wounded healers are comfortable with people in dark and troubled places because they too have been there and have found their way out. They may not have preferred the human experience, and they may be a little strange from frequent sojourns into the underworld, but they do have eyes that can see in the dark and have faith in the return of the light. This affects me because I've always shared with you guys, this karmic lifetime for me has had a lot of loss and heartbreak after heartbreak. And if anybody's a wounded healer, I can go in the darkness with you, that's for darn sure. And I also will believe that the light is on the other side. because I visited it so many times. And I don't desire to visit the darkness any longer, but I'm perfectly fine to meet it there in your darkness to help you find the kind of light that I have found. But that doesn't mean that it's all ended. You know, I've been taking these NIA classes, and we just brought them here a month ago. They've been going really, really well. And we actually have a really special workshop this Saturday called the 52 Moves of NIA. And it's $20, it's 2 hours, and it's a way to really learn all of the moves so that you'll be much more fluent in the dancing. And men and females are welcome, and Jack's gonna be there at the NIA 52 Moves Saturday, Dad? Right? That's what you get for closing your eyes during my talk. I just saw you. What? He would, right? So tell him to come, Mom. Okay. All right, so I hope I see you all there for that. But I was in a class not this last Thursday, the Thursday before, with Jasmine, and there was some song that came on, and I can't remember what the affirmation was, but it was something about not having to keep doing things you don't want to do. And it was just kind of repeating this affirmation of you don't have to keep doing things you don't want to do. And somehow dancing within that, I was moving into the things that I don't want to have to do anymore. And there are things that I have to do that I don't want to do, like deal with my ex-husband and not raise my children the way that I want to. There's a lot of things about medicine and natural medicine and being able to do it my way instead of having to listen to his way and still being dictated and controlled by an energy that's no longer mine. I don't want to ask for approval for things anymore from people. I know my connection with God, and I'm guided directly to what I need to do, but I still do have to ask people for permission. And by the end of that dance, I was just sobbing. I just had tears. I don't want to have to keep living asking for permission from other people of my unfoldment in my parenting, in my marriage, in my being a daughter to my parents, or my sister to my brother. I want to just fly now. And I left there, and there was somebody in my office that was needing to talk, and every once in a while I'll be like, all right, well, we'll do a trade right now, because I was in a rough spot, so I listened to what she had to say. And I shared, I just don't want to have to keep doing the things I don't want to do anymore. And she said, Syntysche, that's your ego speaking. Oh my God. Oh my God. I was so raw and awake and telling my truth. And you looked at me and said, that's your ego speaking. I don't want to keep doing things that I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to keep doing things I don't want to do anymore. Spirit, how can I do that? Our truth isn't our ego. Our heart's call of the roar of who we are is your truth. People want to tell us that our wildness is a dysfunction. Our wildness is our spirit that's going to make a difference for this planet to be healed. That wildness is alive, and it's electric, and you can throw bolts of it, and you can move it. So the talk is about the I am. I like this other quote from this book. We're running a little long because of the fact that we started late. In Marrow, once again, it's in the depth that we are given the chance to lay claim to each other's goodness and to bring it up into the relationship. This may sound way too laborious, way too risky, but I think it's riskier and more labor-intensive not to do it, not to come home to your own goodness, not to seek out the goodness in others. We spend so much time and anguish circling each other's inauthentic, wounded selves. It's shockingly liberating to break the cycle of authenticity deficit disorder. And the first step is, in doing so, is to realize how we all suffer from ADD. Inauthentic, wounded disorder. So I like that statement because now I can see that in my head. When we don't want to connect from our actual heart. There's certain people we don't want to, and what I love about this book is she says, you don't show your heart to every single person. Because some people aren't going to meet you where you are. And they'll take full advantage of that, and that's not their fault. Your authentic, beautiful, blow your mind heart has to have discernment of finding the people that have that beautiful heart so you can share and dance in that. Yes, you help people through your counseling with them, but you don't give your full heart to people that aren't ready to give it back to you. So we don't end up hurting each other energetically. So President Obama says something. Where did it go? Where did we go? Oh, you know what? I didn't put it aside. President Obama said in a speech, I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together, unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes, that we may not look the same and we may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction towards a better future for us, for our children and our grandchildren. We all ultimately have a common goal where we can be authentic. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We do want to be arm in arm to try to help our children have a future on this planet. We do want to, but we don't want to just give it up for our children. We also want to find happiness in this present lifetime. We want to find the lover. We want to find the life. We want to have the land. We want to have these things. And all of that is opened up to it, but it's in giving that we receive. You can't just keep taking and taking and taking. That's why this land is like this. There's a perfect balance to everything, yin and yang. It's the dark and the light. It's the giving and the receiving. It's the quiet and then it's the loud. It's the contrast. Contrast is what life is built on. So if you're sitting in the center and you don't really put any money in that tithing bag and you're wondering why this isn't working in your life, we are energy. What we give is what we receive. When you go to a dance class or you go to something, you need to give to that energy that's giving you the energy back. Otherwise, you're letting yourself down. You're playing in a shadow world that's not the truth. When I teach my prosperity classes, you have to be truthful with yourself. Authentic with yourself. To the measure that you're willing to give is the measure that you will receive. I am healed. I am whole. I am prosperous. What am I willing to give into the universe to receive that kind of power? I love you guys so much. Thank you.